Welcome to the vlog. Welcome to episode 8 of KISSTORY, my overly ambitious series on the history of my favorite rock band, Kiss. What you just saw was a clip from Shandy, the music video for Shandy, which was a song off Kiss's album Unmasked that they put out in 1980. If you watched that video, you got the original lineup of Kiss, Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter Criss. Now, what you may know or may not know is that at the time of the filming of that video, Peter Criss was not even a member of Kiss. But they still had him appear in the music video. It's a complicated story, and I'm going to get into it right now. Yeah, I've had so much fun doing this KISSTORY series. I'm so glad to keep it going. When I left off, it was December of 1979, and Kiss was just finishing up the Dynasty tour, and they absolutely hated each other's guts. They were not getting along at all. They were sick of touring, and they all pretty much had it in their heads at the end of that tour that might just be, dare I say, the end of the band. They just were not getting along. They were not having a good time. As I've said before, Gene and Paul have egos that are out of control. And Ace and Peter had, some substance abuse issues. And Peter particularly was becoming just impossible to deal with. He had a temper as well, which was difficult to control. But after a couple of months of resting, in about February or March of 1980, Kiss decided to hit the rehearsal studios again, get back together, hopefully get started, get back going on the right foot, and be productive as a unit again. But unfortunately, that just was not possible. Peter Criss was again proving too difficult. So after, I believe it was 2 rehearsals, they had a band meeting. Gene, Paul, and Ace, I should say, had a band meeting. And they voted unanimously to kick Peter Criss out of the band.
We're talking today with Peter Criss, formerly a member of the group Kiss.
Leaving the band, I thought about it for at least 3 years now. And I just didn't get enough tunes, and it was getting really frustrating for me. And towards the last tour, we did something like 90 shows in 6 months. And I said that, I went on after I got married, went on my honeymoon, I was in Brazil, and I said, that's it. I just can't do that no more.
And the original Fearsome Foursome was no more. They kicked Peter Criss out of the band. He said, all right, well, I'm going to make my own album then. And he did. He put out an album called Out of Control that year. It's okay. It didn't sell very well, but it was okay. And Kiss had to find themselves a new drummer. They put that on the back burner initially, though, because to work in the studio, which they had to do to put out a new album, they already had a studio guy in mind, Anton Fig, who had been the drummer on most of the tracks on Dynasty, every single one except for Dirty Livin', and he had also been on Ace Frehley's solo album back in 1978. You all also might know Anton Fig as the drummer of the CBS Orchestra, aka the world's most dangerous band, the David Letterman Show band. But yeah, he was a heavily in-demand studio drummer, and a tried and true one that Kiss had used before. So at first, before they even replaced Peter Criss with a full-time drummer, they just used him in the studio again, got some new songs worked out, and in about June of that year, maybe May, they put out this album, Unmasked. I actually absolutely love this front cover design. It's comic book style. The joke is that the reporters are trying to get an unmasked shot of Kiss, and then at the end they remove these masks and they have the same face, the makeup designs underneath them. It's a funny little idea. You'll notice there's Peter. So on the front cover of this album, you've got the original lineup of Kiss, even though Peter Criss had absolutely zero involvement with the actual making of this album. I have a really cool Dutch pressing of this one, which just uses the stock Casablanca labels, but that's neither here nor there. Now, this album is about as pop as Kiss ever went. It's a step even further towards pop than their previous effort, Dynasty, had been even, and that album had I Was Made for Lovin' You on it. They're straying away from their rock and roll roots on this one. Again, this album is produced by Vinnie Poncia, who had produced Peter Criss' solo album and then Dynasty, and co-writes a number of songs actually on this album. So this album is kind of controversial amongst Kiss fans. Some people love it, some people hate it. I actually enjoy it. I don't know why. I hated it the first time I listened to it, but over the years it's sort of grown on me. I like the album. They're fun pop songs. They're not the hard-edged rock that you might know and love from Kiss, but good album nonetheless, in my opinion. Now, at the time, there wasn't as much of a backlash from this album as Dynasty, but that's mostly just because Kiss's American audience was as good as gone by that point. Yeah, in 2 short years, they'd gone from being basically one of the biggest rock bands in America to being not even relevant anymore. Number of factors, you could argue, led to that, as I've covered in my previous videos. Could have been the irregular touring schedule, could have been oversaturation of the market, particularly like in 1978. They put out a solo album for each of the members, a compilation album, so that's 5 albums total, and a movie, and endless merchandising, commercials on television constantly, with no actual real like studio released new Kiss albums. Everything was like a weird side project. And then in 1979, when they did finally put out an album, it was labeled as disco. So yeah, there's a number of factors that led up to this. Also, just, I mean, the bubble had burst. Kiss, I love them, but they're a fairly gimmicky band, I know. People just got tired of it. That's really what I think it comes down to. I think we can overanalyze it as much as you want, but people just got tired of it. Yeah, but so their North American fan base was gone, but they were gaining new fans elsewhere in the world. So they needed a new drummer. They just now needed a new drummer. They had the album out, and they were planning on starting the tour in New York City in July. And so they were holding auditions, secret auditions, for a new drummer. And the one they wound up going with was a guy by the name of Paul Caravello. Which leads to a funny thing where for a while there were 2 Pauls in Kiss, and neither of them were Paul Stanley. Because Paul Stanley's real name is Stanley Eisen. Ace Frehley's real name is Paul Frehley, and now you had Paul Caravello, which, once again, Kiss decided was not a rock and roll enough name. And so he again joined the club of Kiss members who adopted a stage name. They gave him the name of Eric Carr, so they shortened Caravello to Carr, which is exactly what they'd done with Peter Criss. He was Peter Criscola, they made him Peter Criss. Now, Paul Caravello becomes Eric Carr. Where they got Eric from, I'm not sure. But they had a unique issue with putting a new drummer in the band, because not only do you have to replace the drummer, you also have to address the issue that each person in Kiss plays a character. Where's makeup design? Do you slap the Catman makeup on him? Do you create a new character? What do you do? They knew they had to put him in makeup. They did not. They felt like Peter Criss was the Catman. They felt like that it just wouldn't be right to put a new drummer in the Catman makeup. Obviously, they've changed their mind on that now, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get there. So they actually did decide to give him a fully new character, new makeup design, something they'd never done before.
Anyway, we at Kids Are People Too are going to help Kiss welcome their newest member. So please give a big hand for the Fox, Eric Carr. Yeah! Eric, how's it feel now to be a member of KISS, which is not only a terrific rock group, but a phenomenon almost?
It's great, Michael. It's like a dream come true for me.
Really?
It
What did you
is.
think the first moment you knew you were going to be with him?
I was very positive through the whole thing, you know. I just felt from the very beginning that it was going to happen to me and that it was going to be right, you know. I wish everybody sometime in their life could have an experience like this.
They wanted to stick with having a drummer be some sort of animal, so they kind of asked Eric what animal he wanted to be in the band. He originally wanted to be the hawk. Now here's a early design to the hawk makeup design and costume. It looks really weird. They just couldn't hone in a good look for that. So with just a couple of weeks to go before KISS is scheduled to start their tour at the Palladium in New York City on July 25th, they come up with a new idea, which is to make Eric Carr the Fox. Much better look, but even by the time the concert did take place, they still hadn't finalized the makeup design. The makeup he wore that first night of the tour wasn't quite the same as what he would wind up settling with. Anyway, let's talk about that first concert. So the first concert of the tour, July 25th, 1980, at the Palladium in New York City. This was not a full-size arena show. The previous year on the Dynasty Tour, when KISS toured America, they had played probably like 8 to 14,000 seat arenas. This was a gig at a 3,000 seat theater, the Palladium, which had previously been known as the Academy of Music and had been the place where KISS did their Industry Pro debut on New Year's Eve, 1973. But for this show, it was smaller than anything they'd done before. They'd sold it out, not smaller than anything they'd done before, but smaller than what they'd been used to. They did sell it out, thank God, but it was clearly a step down from what they'd been drawing previously. And also, it's their only American show for 1980. They did not book a full American tour. They simply just didn't have the market to do it. So that one New York show became the entire U.S. tour. And from there, they went on to Europe. European tour was fairly successful. This had been their first time in Europe for 4 years. They had previously gone there in the early part of the Destroyer tour in 1976, and it just didn't go well. I mentioned in my video then that they just didn't draw the audience that they thought they would. But this time they'd done better. They still weren't drawing quite the crowd that they had been in America, though. So what they went with for a stage design was basically just a scaled back version of the Dynasty tour. It was similar, but not quite to scale. Paul wore a new costume. Obviously, Eric wore a new costume. Gene wore like a modification of his previous costume, I believe, and then Ace just wore what he had worn on the Dynasty tour. So the European tour went fairly well. Lasted from like August through, mostly August and September of 1980. But it was what happened after that was spectacular. In September of 1980, KISS went to Australia, and while their United States fan base was mostly gone, I mean, just look at the pandemonium that surrounded them in Australia. They were just huge. They were like the Beatles in Australia at the time.
And we sent Pamela Graham out to track them down today.
Tullamarine last night. The rock group is due on a 7:30 flight from Perth. It's over an hour late, but the KISS fans wait, longing to see the stars in person. And they were terribly disappointed, not even a glimpse. The KISS publicity machine blamed the Department of Transport for ordering their speedy exit from the plane into waiting limousines on the tarmac and out a supposedly never-used gate. But the same kids were back at the Southern Cross Hotel today, craning their necks to see the idols in their top-floor rooms. The publicity machine says they are sleeping. The Welcome to Melbourne party last night followed the Farewell to Perth party, and it went till dawn. The group do manage to sneak out of the hotel, a private tour for one, a movie for another. But it seems the fans will have to wait till Saturday night's concert at VFL Park before they get more than just a glimpse of KISS behind a scarf.
So, yeah, it was unbelievable. They were like the teen pop sensations of Australia for like 1979 and 1980. I believe they had planned to come to Australia on the Dynasty Tour, but since Peter left, they had to push it back, and they did it in November of 1980 on the UNMASKED Tour, so the anticipation was real. They performed an epic tour, not just in Australia, but also in New Zealand. And sort of the climax of that tour was they played 2 nights at the Sydney Showgrounds. These shows were filmed, and one of those nights winds up on the Kissology Volume 2 DVD, and it is excellent. Yeah, so it was Kiss, who seems like they're down and out by this point in their career, now has yet another new triumph in Australia. So there are downsides and positives to what happened to Kiss in 1980, but don't you worry. In 1981, Kiss made sure to alienate whatever fans they had left in true Kiss fashion. 1981 video is going to be interesting. Kiss did a very interesting move, to say the least, in their musical direction for their next album. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This has been like a passion project of mine. We're 8 episodes deep. Going forward, I'm going to stop doing the year-by-year format, and I'm going to go album by album. I'm going to do a video on the next album, which is Music from the Elder, and then Creatures of the Night, Lick It Up, Analyze everything after that. I'm just going to do it that way. It just seems bizarre to me to, start covering 1981 and then only cover half of the Elder era and then finish it off in the next video. So I'm just going to do that going forward. I also am very excited to say that I just bought tickets to not one but 2 Kiss shows coming up next September. So I'm going to do basically my second annual Kiss extravaganza. The first one was this past January, in January of 2019. I'm from the Vancouver area, so I drove down to Seattle to see Ace Frehley about a week before the End of the Road tour started, and then I got to see the first show of the End of the Road tour live at Rogers Arena in Vancouver from the floor. And then 2 nights later, I drove down to Tacoma, to the Tacoma Dome, and I saw them again. So I've already seen 2 shows on this End of the Road tour, and I'm going to see 2 more. I bought tickets to their 2 shows in Washington State for September. And the lame part about my first Kiss extravaganza was that I wasn't doing the vlog yet, but now I am, so I get to actually film it. That's very exciting. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. That'll do it for this episode. For those of you who don't know, I'm also a professional live musician myself. You can check out the description to see a full list of all my upcoming tour dates, as well as links to where you can find my music where it's sold or streamed online. You can like this video if you liked what you saw, subscribe to this channel if you've been enjoying my videos, and you can even ring the notification bell if you would like to be notified every single time I upload a new video, which should be tomorrow and most days for the foreseeable future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you with another vlog episode tomorrow, and I'll have the next episode of this KISSTORY series sometime in the near future. I usually wind up doing these, about every year or 2. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Another new vlog tomorrow. See you then.